Alright, my babies. We're just gonna finish the book, aren't we? Now we're at chapter 7, requirements analysis and design definition. Now, I'm completely trying a new software, so I hope this works. The requirements analysis and design definition knowledge area describes the tasks that business analysts perform to structure and organize requirements discovered during the elicitation activities, specify and model requirements and designs, validate and verify information, identify solution options that meet business needs, and estimate the potential value that could be realized for each solution option. This knowledge area covers the incremental and iterative activities ranging from the initial concept and exploration of the need through the transformation of those needs into a particular recommended solution. Knowledge areas are basically they're spaces that we kind of grow, right? They're spaces, they're mental slots that we kind of grow to give us more insight on what it is that we're working. So when it comes to requirement analysis and design definition, I think what we're doing is effectively like understanding better what the requirements are and how are we going to define whatever we're going to design for. Yeah, okay. So both requirements and designs are important tools used by business analysts to define and guide change. Okay. The main difference between requirements and design is how they are used by and by whom. One person's designs may be another person's requirements. Requirements and designs may be either high level or very detailed, based upon what is appropriate to those consuming the information. All right, so like our attention needs to be on the details and why anything is relevant, kind of like what all business analysis is. The business analyst role is in modeling needs, requirements, design, basically solutions is instrumental in conducting through analysis and communicating with other stakeholders. So they're taking us back to everything. The form, level of detail, and what is being modeled are all dependent on the context, audience, and purpose. Business analysts analyze the potential value of both requirements and designs in collaboration with implementation subject matter experts, naturally. Business analysts define solution options that can be evaluated in order to recommend the best solution option, that meets the need and brings the most value. That's where we kind of like have to take a decision, right? The following image illustrates the spectrum of value as business analysis activities progress from delivering potential value to actual value. Right, because like ultimately, are we starting from the center and basically going from left and right? No, we actually did the strategy analysis before. And it makes sense that we're switching from potential to actual, as in like, at one point, I think we had like multiple possibilities and we went through the need and the solution scope and created the strategy analysis basically and how to actually like create the strategy. And now we're working on the requirement analysis. And I imagine the solution evaluation is basically the last thing we get to do, which is it's the last thing we get to do, which is ultimately like figure something out that needs to be done and start testing and like start exploring. So here, because we have to create a proof of concept and prototype, pilot, beta, and then we operate. That's the testing of the solution. Whilst for the requirements analysis and the design definition, we just kind of like figure out the requirements. I think decide on them, right? Because like we have already figured out a lot of information. I think requirements analysis right now, the strategy kind of like concentrated what we're working on, and now what effectively we're doing is just trying to link what makes sense to whatever we're going to be doing and what doesn't, we're kind of putting on the side. So the requirements analysis and design definition knowledge area includes the following tasks. Specify and model requirements, as in describing a set of requirements for the design in detail using analytical techniques. I'm sure that's going to be like 7.1 because that's what they're going to talk about later. Verify their requirements, ensuring that the set of requirements or designs has been developed is enough detail to be usable by the particular stakeholder and internally consistent and is of high quality. Validating the requirements, which basically ensures that the set of requirements or designs delivers businesses value and supports an organization goals and objectives. Defining the requirements architecture. Now we're looking at the actual design structure, right? From one side, we kind of like fit the material that we're going to build a building with. Now, defined requirement structure is basically like now we're drawing how the building's going to look like. You know, we all understand that if we're building by wood, then we have to basically decide, make decisions, which wood, which nails, which all this stuff. But like again, decisions vary depending on the size of the building. But ultimately, once you kind of like pick the materials for it and like what are the materials you might be using, ultimately, the art, we then define the architecture, draw the building, and here basically for the business purpose for a change and how they work effectively as a cohesive role because like, all the requirements that need to be validated in the definition of the actual like in the architecture, the design. And then we have to define a solution options, which basically defining the solution options or identifying, exploring, and describing different possible ways of meeting the need. I think that's also defining the design option, right? That's the title, by the way, because we're doing here. This is 7.1, and this is 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, and this is 7.5, defining solution options. The title of it is defining design options. So it makes more sense because the design is the solution. And analyze potential value and recommended solutions, assesses the business value associated with a potential solution and compares different options, including trade-offs, to identify and recommend a solution option that delivers the greatest overall value. Yeah, I think that's when we kind of like we weigh the solutions we created around each other, and we kind of see like how we get to fuck about with them. So the core concept model in requirement analysis and design definition. Uh, it describes the relation, the BACCM, isn't that the normal basically code we have to follow, describes the relationship among the six core concepts. The following table describes the usage and application of each of the core concepts. So this is basically the table. Naturally, at the beginning, at the beginning of every chapter, they always kind of like give us this table. Core concept, which is basically change, and during requirements analysis and design definition business analysis. Each of the actual, each chapter or each segment of our approach has change, need, solution, stakeholder, value, and context. Remember, we always have to like understand who are we talking to, why are we talking to them, what's the point of us doing what we're doing, why is this information relevant, how does it actually like fulfill the purpose. And that's basically like change, the act of transformation in response to a need. Like, are we still creating a change or did we forget about it? And the need, which is a problem or opportunity to be addressed. Solution is how that is satisfying the need, the stakeholder, who is getting satisfied, who baby. Value, the worth, importance, usefulness of something in a stakeholder within context, and this is the context. They kind of go like two, 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 right? The change and need kind of go together, solution, stakeholder go together, and value context go together. But overall, all of them are like one big bloat of, hey man, these are the things that we have to always remember. So dueling elicitation results in order requirements designs in order to define the change. When there's a need, you analyze the need in order to recommend the solution. When it comes to the solution, there's define a solution options and recommend the one that most likely addresses the need, has most value. Stakeholder, tailor the requirements to design the stakeholder. And where it comes to the value, analyze and quantify the potential value. When it comes to context, the circumstances that influence basically that everything. We have to model and describe the context in formats that are understandable and usable by all stakeholders. We can't design something that's unusable. And here we are. For 7.0.2, literally information management approach in the chapter 3 is something that we would require right now, especially for chapter 7, because that's basically, we'll need the requirements. We need to use the information management approach. We need to use the elicitation results. Remember that elicitation results where we're actually getting information from random people and trying to figure out what the hell we're doing or what we can do. And we have to look at the potential value that we have and the potential scope and the change strategy that we could actually implement as guidance systems or at the very least baseline structures. They are inputs, and what we get to do out of them is verifying the requirements, validate engineer requirements, define requirement architecture, define design options, and then analyze potential value. See here, 7.5 is define design options, but up here it was called define solution options. I noticed. And the output is basically the same thing. It's like specified requirements, verified requirements, validated requirements. We got the architecture for the requirements, we got the design options, and we got the solution recommendation. Nuclear. That's basically chapter 7 in a nutshell. And we're going to dive into 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, 7.5, 7.6 in the next videos. I love you guys.